Here is the scary thing about inflation. It destroys wealth. When inflation happens, the amount of things you can buy with your money decreases. But why does this happen? What is inflation? Is it necessary for a functioning economy? Let's find out. At its core, inflation is a measure of the average price increase for a basket of goods that include key items that everyone needs. This basket of goods typically have things such as food, housing, clothing, transportation, healthcare, education, and many more key items. If the rate of inflation in America is 2%, then every year we will be able to buy 2% less goods and services with the same amount of money. If your income doesn't keep up with the pace of inflation, then your purchasing power goes down. A good example would be the cost for a bag of chips from a vending machine. The bag of chips used to cost 50 cents, then 75 cents a few years later, then $1 a few years after that, and the prices keep going up. If you had $1 back when the bag of chips cost 50 cents, then you could get 2 bags for your $1, but now you can maybe get a single bag of chips for that same amount. The purchasing power of your money has decreased. This is inflation at work. So how and why do prices for goods rise? The rise in cost usually comes as a result of businesses raising their prices. If times are slow and they are having trouble selling their goods, then prices will drop. However, if times are good and things are flying off the shelves, then prices will inevitably go up. One thing to note is that an increase in price due to inflation is not the same as an increase in price due to quality. For example, if a Model XYZ computer costs $1,000 last year but costs $1,100 this year, the price rise isn't purely due to inflation. There is likely an increase in quality for the product due to better processors, memory, screen, and so on. There is also a strong psychological factor to inflation. It's not some formulaic, mechanical process that occurs predictably. After all, there is usually a human element involved when a business raises their prices. Inflation happens when too many people have too much money and they're all trying to buy the same goods and services. For example, if everyone suddenly got an extra $50,000, then we would likely be out buying things with that money, and businesses would probably raise their prices. You may have heard the term hyperinflation. Hyperinflation is inflation gone wild. It's technically defined as an inflation rate that is higher than 50% per month. How crazy is that? 50% per month. This means that something like a box of cereal could cost $5 at the beginning of the month, and that same box would cost $7.50 at the end of the month. Or that $20,000 car at the beginning of the month now costs $30,000 at the end of the month. Once the cycle of hyperinflation starts, it is hard to stop, as people will want to spend their money as soon as they get paid. This would likely cause businesses to raise their prices even more and reinforce the hyperinflation cycle. As insane as this all sounds, hyperinflation does happen. In 2018, Venezuela had an inflation rate of 1,700,000%. Yes, you heard that right. This particular case of hyperinflation came as a result of the Venezuelan government increasing the money supply by more than 10% and people losing faith in the integrity of their central bank. The situation got so bad that people were using cartons of eggs as currency. America hasn't had anything close to hyperinflation since the Civil War, when the Confederates printed money to pay for war expenses. To have hyperinflation these days, you essentially need a failed government. Today, we count on central banks to keep inflation in check. It is the mission of all central banks, such as the Federal Reserve, to control inflation to keep their economies functioning effectively. To combat inflation, you have to make people and businesses less willing to borrow money to buy stuff. Central banks do this by raising the interest rate. Whenever you hear the Federal Reserve saying they are raising their benchmark interest rate, they are trying to keep inflation in check. If it's more expensive to borrow money, then the amount that people borrow will be less. If less people and businesses are borrowing, then in essence less money is being created. Check out our article on "What is Money?" linked in the description below if this doesn't make sense. You now have less money chasing the same amount of goods and services, and this drives prices down. So what can you do during times of high inflation? Historically, the best thing to do is to purchase assets that rise alongside inflation. These assets are usually things like gold, commodities such as oil, inflation-linked bonds, and real estate.